Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the 25th anniversary of the Sedona International Film Festival. I would like to thank our sponsors first. We have Digitech, Blackmagic Design, and the Sedona Rouge Hotel sponsoring the media room this year. We're ever so thankful for their technology and, of course, the hospitality. And I have some filmmakers in my seat once again with a really moving film, quite honestly, one of the most moving ones I've seen so far. And we've had all great films. Everything I've seen has been great. Please introduce yourself and tell us about the movie.
Sure.
I'm Eiren Caffall. I'm the writer and subject of the film.
And I'm Scott Foley, the director of the film. And Eiren and I have been friends for many years, and she's been writing a lot of great climate activism stuff, and she shared this essay with me that the film is based on. I'll let you talk about it, but that's what we made the film about.
Yeah, I think it was about 2 years ago that I finished the essay that this is based on as part of a large book project that I'm working on. And Scott got really excited about the project and filmed it over the course of a few months, about a year and a half ago?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, and the essential subject is that I'm a climate writer and have been for about 15 years. And I also live with a genetic illness that is very similar to the way that it works feels a lot like the way that global warming and sea level rise works. It's invisible. You wouldn't know that I'm sick. It's slowly flooding my body. And I think I had been writing about all sorts of issues around the climate for years before waking up one morning and realizing, oh God, I'm actually living in something that I think is an intimate version of what we're all experiencing in terms of experiencing climate denial and looking for solutions and healing, and it just seemed like it flowed very naturally after that. Scott got very interesting, so here we are with the film.
Well, let's watch the trailer and then we'll get into some discussion about it.
Great.
There are times when I feel the water all through the world as if it's become me. Or maybe as if I've been given the gift of becoming ocean. The sound of the water is inside my body, in my skin, and my cells, and my organs, like a music I am alone in hearing. The ocean sound is in my body because my kidneys are failing, and slowly, ever so slowly, I am drowning.
The parallels of the connection that we have, you in particular, but all of us, to Earth and to ourselves. And I love how you bring that together in this film. Did that come about naturally as you were putting this together?
It did. I've always felt very deeply connected with the science of the climate crisis. My mother is a scientist and is a geologist and works with water, so obviously this is a legacy experience for me. But I've always been interested in how do we intimately experience the crisis that we're having on the planet at the moment. How do people feel it, both physically, but also we live in spaces where we watch change happening incrementally, sometimes very quickly, but we can notice the differences of what a winter feels like or how a spring thaw is, and know that in a very intimate, observational way that's felt. And there's a lot of emotionality that goes along with that, a lot of experience of grief, and I've been working on that piece by piece for more than a decade. And so it felt very natural to say this is a particularly intimate version of this experience because of the way that a chronic illness feels. But it's a universal experience to see a body change, to see a place that we love change. And making that explicit did feel like it came very easily as a metaphor that could be an entry point for anyone. That was different than most entry points into talking about the crisis. I think it's very difficult for us now to be able to feel the intimacy of it because it feels so huge. And bringing the scale down to something so personal felt like the absolutely most natural way to help myself and therefore my readers find their way into the crisis in a different way.
And that was what attracted me to the essay and what made me want to make the film was that I, as someone who cares about the environment, I struggled for a long time to figure out a way into the advocacy, climate change advocacy, right? And when I read Eiren's essay, I was just like, well, this is the way in, right? Like we all have to, maybe not through chronic illness, but we all have to find our own sort of personal connection to whatever it is we decide to fight for in the climate change, and that this was a metaphor that I'd just not heard before and thought was really wonderful.
Well, and it's so subtle. Like and the illness is so subtle that people don't even want to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, there's still such disbelief around climate change with such hard evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Your illness is the same way.
It is, and it's a generational illness. It's genetic, so I've lived with this for as many generations back in my family as possible, as we have recorded anyway. And the invisible quality of it, the fact that you don't know that someone's ill until it absolutely changes rapidly with a lot of crisis, a lot of, I kind of think of it as when you start finally falling ill with the illness I have and you're in the middle of kidney transplants and dialysis, that it's more like hurricane season. But the day-to-day is can be 20 years. I was diagnosed when I was 22. I'm 47 now, so I've been living with this gradual, slow increase and this invisible, I have to make constant adjustments to my illness. We all have to make constant adjustments to the climate catastrophe. But you don't think about them when they happen incrementally. And I think being able to talk about them as a presence that we need to become more conscious of, instead of just allowing the slow devolution towards disaster to happen. The more conscious I am about my own illness, the healthier I stay. The more aware we are of what's going on moment to moment, the healthier we stay. And I think for me, staying connected to my illness enables me to have the bravery to be able to fight and look for new cures and novel ways, and basically just stay alive and engaged until something comes along that begins to help. And for the climate crisis, I feel like I've adopted the same attitude, which is I'm constantly fighting and working in advocacy spaces, but I'm also waiting for great legislation or people who are joining the movement or excellent new ideas about how to solve the problem. Even fossil fuel divestment, it didn't exist as an idea 15 to 20 years ago. That's brand new and beautiful.
Right.
So staying alive and preserving one's sense of hope and self in the middle of it feels like the more important work, because that gives us the energy to fight that we might not have otherwise.
Right. And for you as a filmmaker, putting a message out such as this, I mean, are people getting it when you're showing it to people? Are people like, wow, I didn't see it that way?
I mean, I think it's a little bit a micro version of the macro, right? Where like the people who kind of already got it, get it. The people that don't want to get it don't get it. And that's a bit of a bummer, because you'd hope that you could sort of change hearts and minds, right? And maybe it has in some ways and with some people, but I do hear some of the, well, climate change doesn't exist, that kind of thing. But I think people are really getting the metaphor and experiencing it in a way that I think is new for a lot of people, like it was for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get into the film festival. What was it like getting the phone call that you made it?
It was great. You know what? I lived in Wickenburg, Arizona briefly as a young adult. And I drove up to Sedona once with my uncle and was just blown away by it. So for years I've been submitting to the Sedona Film Festival, waiting to get in so I could bring friends and family back to Sedona. And so when Patrick called, it was like really, really wonderful. Yay. Not to mention the fact that few festivals call you, you just get an email that you're in or something. So I saw the area code come up and I thought, what? That's Arizona. It was a Sunday, I think. I should probably take this call.
Yes.
And it was really great.
Well, he does a really good job of making it personal. And we love that about our director.
Absolutely.
Is there a website that people can go to follow you or promote this film?
Sure.
Both of us have information about the film on our own personal website. So mine is www.eirencaffall.com. So EIRENCAFFALL.
And mine is scottkfoley.com.
Okay.
So yeah.
So make sure you check it out. We'll be right back after this with a few more interviews this afternoon as we start winding down at the end of the week. # Sedona Film Fest 25. And we'll see you shortly.